This is Stephen Lowe, I'm lifestyle medicine cardiologist, and in this video, I'm going to tell you a crazy life or death story and use this story to teach you a lot of interesting things that are so critical and important for you to know for your overall health, specifically how not to die when exercising. So stay tuned. Hey everyone, this is Stephen Lowe, lifestyle medicine cardiologist, and if it's your first time on this channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn those notifications on so you don't miss any of the crazy videos that I post to teach you how to do the right thing to keep yourself healthy and alive for a long time. So I wanted to share this crazy story. I was running a half marathon back in November, and at mile 3, somebody went down right in front of me, complete cardiac arrest. Started CPR, defibrillator arrived. One shock, we were able to get the heart rhythm back from a fatal arrhythmia. Got the runner into the hospital, and thank goodness he did well. But I kept running, and I finished the race, and right after the finish line, oh my gosh, it happened again. Another runner went down, full cardiac arrest. I started CPR, chest compressions, defibrillator arrived, shocked the patient back to a normal rhythm from, again, a fatal arrhythmia. To the hospital he goes, and he ends up getting a stent in his LAD, just like the first runner. Both of them had coronary artery disease, significant cholesterol plaque buildup in their arteries, and it induced a complete cardiac arrest. Absolutely crazy. The two runners went down in the same race. Absolutely crazy. They both fully recovered, and even more mind-boggling, there was a cardiologist running literally right behind them when they both went down. This has had national media attention from USA Today to Washington Post, Runner's World, and we were able to reunite on the Today Show. It was a very heartwarming, wonderful experience. Thank you to everybody who spread this story, and I really want to use it for a positive message. Of course, everybody should learn CPR, how to use defibrillators and do chest compressions. No question, that's very important, and the American Heart Association has done a great job of promoting hands-only CPR, compressions to the song Staying Alive, because that's the right beat, not the song Another One Bites the Dust. Yeah, maybe that's the right beat, but really not appropriate, so keep it Staying Alive. But what I really want to talk about is the most important thing here. The most important lesson to learn is not how to get somebody back from a cardiac arrest, is we need to prevent the cardiac arrest from happening in the first place. Heart disease is a process that takes decades to build up. Starting in childhood, cholesterol plaque can build up in your arteries, and before you know it, something bad can happen like a heart attack or a cardiac arrest. Actually, the first symptom in 1 out of 3 people of heart disease is cardiac arrest, like these two runners had. So you really need to focus on prevention, because you never know when you're just going to have a full-out cardiac arrest. Prevention is absolutely the key. And no, the way that you prevent it is not simply by not exercising. Exercise is critical. According to the guidelines of the American Heart Association, we should be doing at least 30 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic exercise 5 days a week, and add some resistance training to it as well. So the 2 keys to preventing heart disease is, number 1, lowering your cholesterol numbers real low, and number 2, protecting your arteries from damage and inflammation at all costs. And the way to do that, according to the American College of Cardiology and the American Heart Association guidelines for prevention of heart disease, is a plant-based diet. So in regards to the cholesterol, it is the absolute prerequisite that you must have to clog your arteries, an elevated blood cholesterol number, an LDL over 70. Putting that in a different way, if your LDL cholesterol is under 70, there's no evidence that high blood pressure, diabetes, or smoking cigarettes, or physical inactivity will clog your arteries whatsoever. That's how important cholesterol is. It's very well explained here on this graph. The average American has an LDL cholesterol of 125. And if you're the average American, that gives you a 1% risk of heart attack by the age of 40, 4% by the age of 60, and a 16% risk by the age of 80. Not so great. Now, if your LDL cholesterol is very significantly elevated, like I see on a regular basis, an LDL of 160, that is a 3% risk of heart attack by the age of 40, 16% risk by the age of 60, and off the charts by the age of 80. But if you're able to get your LDL cholesterol nice and low, say under 70, like around 60, by the age of 40, you're way under 1% risk. By the age of 60, you're still under 1% risk. And by the age of 80, your risk is still way under 1% risk. This is how important getting that LDL cholesterol down. And how do you get the LDL cholesterol down? Of course, Don't eat cholesterol. There is no need for you to eat cholesterol. And according to the Institute of Medicine, the National Academy of Medicine, we should eat as little cholesterol as possible. Now, the same thing goes for saturated fat. There is no safe amount of saturated fat to eat. Any amount you eat above 0, according to the National Academy of Medicine, will raise your LDL cholesterol numbers. So we should not be eating any cholesterol or saturated fat, which is, guess what? A plant-based diet, just like cigarettes. You don't need to smoke cigarettes to live. Any amount is bad for you, should be 0, and that makes complete sense. Now, focusing away from the cholesterol, thinking about artery damage and inflammation. The lining inside the arteries is so sensitive. It's one layer. It's called the endothelium. And inflammation, the way I like to explain this, is thinking about the arteries being on fire. They're in flame. Now, you would never want to do anything to pour fuel on that flame, right? You don't want to do anything that will harm those arteries, such as eating inflammatory foods, especially processed meats and red meats or other animal-based foods. Oil, refined carbohydrates like sugars and white flours, saturated fat, smoking cigarettes or secondhand smoke. These things damage and inflame the arteries. What you want to do is pour water on the fire, put out the inflammation. So what is it that actually puts out the inflammation? Well, fruits, vegetables, beans, lentils, whole grains, nuts and seeds, herbs and spices, really unprocessed plant-based foods. That's what you want to focus on eating. Now, the human body can heal itself up, right? Think in this analogy. When you look at this, remove the thing that's causing the harm. Remove the gas that's being poured on the flame, the animal products, the processed foods, the sugar, and then now all you're doing is pouring water on the fire and the flame will go out. That's how you take care of heart disease. Knock down your LDL cholesterol by eating plant-based, and then make sure you're eating the right foods that don't cause damage and inflammation, whole, unprocessed plant-based foods. There really are only 3 food groups: processed foods, animal-based foods, and unprocessed plant-based foods. And really, we need to remove the processed foods, remove the animal foods, and focus on eating whole, unprocessed plant-based foods. That is what we call a whole food plant-based diet, which is in the guidelines from the American Heart Association, the American College of Cardiology. So there you have it. The key to not dying during exercise is to eat a plant-based diet, a whole food, unprocessed, plant-based diet. That'll knock your cholesterol numbers down. It'll put out the inflammation in the arteries. Then you can go crazy with exercise and you're gonna be fine. Now, of course, yes, it's important to learn CPR and know how to use a defibrillator. You never know when you're gonna be in a situation where you're gonna need those skills. But for sure, no question, focus on diet is the most important thing. Athletes, are you wondering where am I going to get my protein if I am on a plant-based diet? Well, check out the documentary called The Game Changers by James Cameron, featuring elite athletes that eat whole food, plant-based diets, and they still perform absolutely crazy athletic feats. And actually, many of them say that their athletic performance significantly improves when they change from a meat-based diet over to a plant-based diet. Well, I hope you like this video and this crazy story of 2 runners having cardiac arrest right in front of the same cardiologist and making full recoveries after getting stents in their coronary arteries. Absolutely mind-boggling. The link to the Today Show article and video where we reunite is in the description below, as well as the links to the other articles that were published about this amazing story. And yes, please learn CPR and how to use defibrillators, but focus on your own health, your cholesterol numbers, protecting your arteries from damage and inflammation. Follow a whole food, plant-based diet as best as you can. There'll be other resources in the descriptions below, and check out all my other videos on how to eat a plant-based diet in the right way. The food is awesome. You're going to love it. You're going to live longer. You're going to feel better, and you're not going to die when you exercise.